Welcome to Nice and Blunt. I'm Adam Mariacho, and it's Saturday, week 13. Time for the injury report. Every player at every position, even on defense and the offensive line. So let's rip through that. I've been trying to cut down on my run time lately, so this is just going to be injury updates. You can adjust your thinking based on this information. I will be posting my quarterback, tight end, and defensive rankings later on tonight, as well as updating running backs and wide receivers, but that will be in a separate video posted later tonight. So if you are interested, hit the subscribe button and ring the notification bell if you don't want to miss out when I drop it. So let us begin. We're first going with the offensive players at different positions, and then we'll pivot to defense and O-line separately. But let's stick with fantasy relevant players. Are they in or out? And let's begin at the quarterback position, which affects most of the offense entirely. So in New York, the Giants are going to get Jackson Dart back. Jameis Winston flashed his brilliance, blessed us with a perfect game against Detroit, and Jackson Dart does return against New England. But in Houston, CJ Stroud returns from his concussion as well. Both have missed multiple games, and they will both play in week 13. So the Texans going to be interesting. They almost look better with Davis Mills. They were undefeated with Davis Mills. I want to know if Jaden Higgins has the same chemistry with CJ Stroud. But in Tampa Bay, Baker Mayfield is expected to play. Still questionable with that shoulder injury. He did not practice Wednesday, but then ramped up as the week went on. Limited Thursday, and then on Friday, he was full. So given the full practice, I do think Baker Mayfield will play, but maybe Todd Bowles is extra cautious. Maybe they hold him out for the sake of his health. There's a lot of divisional games left for Tampa, and that's really going to decide their fate. Not this matchup against Arizona. An extra win would be nice, but really it's critical they at least get 3 more wins in division. That should seal it. A 9-8 record going 5-1 in the NFC South, I think, is all you need for Tampa. So Baker, I think, will play, but I don't think he has to personally. JJ McCarthy, not going to play, I think, because they're afraid of how embarrassing it'll look compared to Sam Darnold. The fan base would be livid if they lost 45-0 against Sam Darnold. But McCarthy has a concussion. He's not going to play. Sam Brosmer will get the start in Minnesota. And then despite being limited at practice this week, Jaden Daniels is not going to play, ruled out with that left elbow, and I don't understand why they need to bring him back, but given he's paid to play, I understand why he wants to. In Cleveland, they're going to keep Dylan Gabriel on the bench. Shedeur Sanders will get the start. In New York, the Jets are still benching Justin Fields. Tyrod Taylor will get the start. And then in Pittsburgh, Aaron Rodgers will come back to the offense. He is available. He was full in practice, and he will play against the Bills. So Rodgers getting the start. That is it at quarterback. Most of the quarterbacks we started the year expecting would be the guy will be playing this week at quarterback. But let's talk about tight ends. We haven't spoken about that yet. Dalton Kincaid is questionable, and he's a true game time decision. I don't know for sure if Kincaid will play. If I had to put a number on it, I would say it's just under 50-50. I am pessimistic. I don't think Kincaid will suit up, but he didn't practice Wednesday, was limited Thursday and Friday, and he's just been Dalton first aid all year. I really don't think he's going to be available against the Steelers. Maybe they feel like they can win without him. So Kincaid, I don't know if he's helpful. He's been so up and down. While his upside's elite, in his first game back, I'm not going to expect one of his good games. His bad games have been terrible. So I think I'll pass on Kincaid this week, regardless of whether or not he starts. And then David Njoku, I think, will play. He did last week, but logged a very limited snap share and put up a bagel. I don't really trust Njoku. In his last 4 healthy games, he has failed to go over 30 yards. Njoku is very touchdown dependent. And aside from 3 okay games this year, the yardage just hasn't really been there. Harold Fannin, I think, is taking over. So I don't think I want to start Njoku, but he was full in practice on Friday. He will play. And then in Las Vegas, backup tight end Michael Mayer is out. Did not practice at all this week with an ankle injury. So I'm trusting Bowers, as always. But in Miami, Darren Waller coming off IR. He's expected to play limited all week, and the activation, as I'm recording this, hasn't taken place yet, but it will in the next 20 minutes or so. I am expecting Darren Waller will suit up. So he should be on the field, and he's been very productive in the end zone this year. 4 touchdowns in 3 healthy games. Waller, I believe, is a top 10 option in week 13 in a good matchup against New Orleans. But Chig Okonkwo is questionable, didn't practice Thursday with a foot injury, and that was between 2 limited sessions. So I don't think Okonkwo is 100%. He's a game time call, likely does tough it out, but it does appear that he's lost his job. On the depth chart, they have officially ranked Gunnar Helm above Chig Okonkwo. So even if he's active, I wouldn't start him. Gunnar Helm actually has value with all the injuries at receiver in Tennessee. Good matchup for Helm. A player I am going to watch pretty closely this week. Might be moving up the ranks pretty quickly. In Indianapolis on Saturday, Tyler Warren was added to the injury report with an illness, and I'm assuming he's fine, but you never know what type of illness it is. He may be a game time decision and might not be ready on Sunday, but I assume he's fine. Most of the time an illness is not big enough of a deal to hold someone out on Sunday. So Warren, I think I'm still going to start, but you got to make sure. Worth mentioning. I would like to bring up running back and wide receiver in this video as well. I mentioned them in yesterday's rankings though, so I'll go kind of quickly down this position. Most of the updates have not changed, but in Arizona, Trey Benson remains on IR. He's not going to play. Bam Knight is expected to play though, despite being limited all week and still questionable. Bam Knight is still the main guy. So yesterday I did rank Michael Carter above him, but now I'm a bit more optimistic on Knight, and odds are he gets more touches in the run game. So Knight, I think, is probably the safer play, but they're both pretty close in Arizona. Emari DeMercado remains out. In Cleveland, Jerome Ford didn't practice Thursday or Friday. I'm not expecting Ford to suit up. He is dealing with a hamstring injury. It's gotten worse, and I think Dylan Sampson is the backup behind Quinshon Judkins. But in Denver, J.K. Dobbins still on IR. In L.A. for the Chargers, Omarion Hampton also still on IR. His practice window opened. He was limited throughout the week, but they're going to play it safe. They're going to keep him out. They're rolling with Kimani Vidal against the Las Vegas Raiders. So Hampton, you got to wait at least one more week. I think he'll play next Monday against Philadelphia, but that makes it kind of annoying. You might need to roster Vidal as a handcuff for next Monday. I don't know if Hampton will be good to go, but at least he'll be activated by next Saturday. We'll know for sure before Sunday if Hampton will suit up. But Alvin Kamara for the Saints is out, didn't practice at all. And then Bucky Irving for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers was full in practice all week long. So I would expect Bucky Irving to suit up. That's the expectation. He's still listed as questionable, but a game time decision, as long as he doesn't suffer a setback in the pregame warmup, I do think Bucky Irving will play, but not expecting him to get the bulk of the carries. I expect a limited snap share, might be capped at about 60%, not the 80% you might be hoping for with him coming back. But lastly, let's mention wide receiver, where Marvin Harrison Jr. remains a game time call, limited all week in practice. And according to him, some things feel completely normal. Other things don't quite feel the same. So that is not an ideal scenario. I don't think Harrison is guaranteed to suit up. So got to make sure. We'll find out as we get closer to kickoff. But I do expect Harrison to be active. If not, a major upgrade for Michael Wilson and even Greg Dortch becomes appealing, but I do think Harrison will play. They don't get Trey Benson back, but Harrison, I think, will return. Drake London for the Atlanta Falcons is out for the second week in a row. And then in Buffalo, Josh Palmer still questionable. I think he'll play. He was limited on Friday, didn't practice on Thursday. So Palmer, the number 2 receiver technically for the Bills, does factor in, but not going to start him. And then in Jacksonville, Brian Thomas Jr. is active. He was full on Thursday and Friday. So getting him back is huge. It's a good matchup against Tennessee. I do like Brian Thomas Jr. in your lineup this week. And then in Las Vegas, I mentioned yesterday Tyler Lockett was questionable, but he will play. He was good to go in practice, removed from the injury report Tyler Lockett is available. So I now would rather have him than Trey Tucker now that I know he's healthy and available. I think Geno prefers to throw to Tyler Lockett. But in New Orleans, Chris Olave is expected to play, but did miss some practice time on Thursday. Didn't practice at all. On Wednesday, he was limited in the walkthrough, and then on Friday, he was also limited in practice. So I think he'll play, but a back injury isn't ideal, and his matchup also sucks against the Dolphins. So I would downgrade Chris Olave. Not the safest play this week, more of a flex option than a clear wide receiver 2. In New York for the Giants yesterday, both Wan'Dale Robinson and Darius Slayton were questionable, but because they play on Monday, they had a practice on Saturday, and both were full in that session. So they are both off the injury report. Both Wan'Dale and Slayton are active for the Giants, going to be catching passes from Jackson Dart. In the Jets offense, we know that Garrett Wilson is on IR, so no update there. And then for the Tennessee Titans, I'm expecting Elic Ayamanor to play. He was limited all week in practice with a hamstring injury, but last week he didn't practice at all. And although he's questionable, he's a game time decision. I think he'll be back for the Titans. So that factors in, but don't trust him. I would only go Chimeri DK. I think even Gunnar Helm is a safer start than a Yamanor. But in Washington, Terry McLaurin is active. He will suit up. He was full in practice Thursday, Friday, and he is active against Denver on Sunday night. But Mariota is his quarterback. We mentioned that earlier. And then lastly, in Seattle, Torrey Horton remains on IR, along with Ayuk remaining out for the Niners. He's not even practicing. Ayuk has burned the bridge with the Niners. Never going to play for the Niners again. But that's it for all of the offensive playmakers in fantasy, all of the updates at those positions. But that's not it for the video. We also tell you where on defense are some players missing, and the offensive line also very relevant as well. We're going to start with what I think is the most impactful news of the week. In Buffalo, the offensive line is depleted. Left tackle Dion Dawkins is out, along with right tackle Spencer Brown out as well. So I would be worried about Josh Allen getting sacked tremendously. I almost want to flip my pick knowing that is the case, because their defense is also very injured. Linebacker Terrell Bernard is out, one of their better players, I believe. And then 8 of their defensive players are on IR. So they've been missing a lot of options, a lot of starters, a lot of key pieces for Buffalo have been inactive. But why I'm probably not going to switch my pick is because the Bills play so much better in bad weather, and Josh Allen has the advantage in that situation. And the weather in Pittsburgh is kind of gross. I'll mention that in weather updates at the end of the video, but I think that's going to keep Allen moving the chains and scoring touchdowns. I think Allen could have another one of those elite upside games like he did a few weeks ago against Tampa in bad weather. The Steelers have a good defense at home, but I still trust Josh Allen. Otherwise, let's go from alphabetical order. In Arizona, right guard Will Hernandez is out. Their right tackle, Kelvin Beachum, is also questionable, so the offensive line is banged up. Will Hernandez has been questionable for a while, but this is the first time I've seen him fully out, straight up, entering the matchup. So that's not good. Their run game has been kind of non-existent, so I think that'll continue. On defense, cornerback Max Melton is questionable, along with safety Dadrian Taylor Demerson. He is out. And then defensive tackle, their first round pick this year, Walter Nolan, key piece, also inactive. He's out for this game. And maybe this game is one of the highest shootouts on the week. In Atlanta, their offensive line is rather banged up at the moment. Right guard Chris Lindstrom has been on the injury report for a few weeks now, questionable again going into this matchup. But offensive tackle Tyrone Wheatley was placed on IR. In Carolina, their offensive line is also banged up. Center Cade Mays is out, along with right guard Chandler Zavala. He is out as well. On defense, linebacker Christian Roseboom is also out. And then probably very important player missing is cornerback J.C. Horn. He's also been ruled out. So I would absolutely trust Puka and Adams. There is no downgrade if J.C. Horn is inactive. And in the secondary, strong safety Trayvon Merrick was suspended for trying to punch Juwan Jennings in the balls, and he deserves to be off the field. But in Cleveland, Two of their defensive ends are out. Aiden Huntington and Alex Wright, both inactive on defense. But in Denver, they're getting star cornerback Pat Surtain back. He's active for this matchup. And overall, their defense is very, very healthy, except for linebacker Jonah Ellis. He's questionable, may not play, but also is just a game time decision. He might also be active. In Houston, they are also getting healthier in the secondary. Their nickel cornerback, Jalen Petrie, is active. He's missed well over a month, if I'm not mistaken. But their cornerback, Ajani Carter, is out. And then linebacker Jamal Hill is also out for Houston. But in Tennessee, their center, Lloyd Cushenberry, is also out. Their left tackle, Dan Moore Jr., is questionable. And then on defense, free safety Xavier Woods, questionable again, along with cornerback Jalen Armour Davis. He is out. L'Jarius Sneed is also on IR. But in Washington for the Commanders, safety Will Harris is on IR. However, he's been upgraded to questionable. I believe they're getting their safety back in this game against Denver, but their defense still sucks. I don't fear the Commanders Secondary. In Jacksonville, their right guard, Patrick McCarry, is out, and then their backup right guard, Chuma Idoga, is also out. So the right guard is a weakness for Jacksonville this week. Maybe that could impact Travis Etienne, but on defense, their former first-round pick, Trayvon Walker, defensive end, is out for the second week in a row. He didn't play last week either. But for the Las Vegas Raiders, right guard Jackson Powers Johnson is on IR, and then backup right guard Jordan Meredith is questionable, may not play as well. So Ashton Jeanty could have some problems, but in general, their O-line just sucks, even when fully healthy. So that kind of doesn't matter. They suck at running the ball in the first place, and then their defensive tackle, Adam Butler, is questionable as well. But nickel cornerback Darnay Holmes is also questionable for the Raiders. In LA for the Chargers, linebacker Junior Colson remains on IR. He is not coming back despite them coming off the bye. And then defensive end Otito Ogbonia is still on IR as well. Otherwise, they have gotten mostly healthy. Their team has a lot of players coming back from injury, coming off the bye, but not so much on the offensive line. They're still without those two key pieces at tackle. But for the Rams, offensive lineman right tackle Rob Havenstein was placed on IR last week, so out yet again. And then on defense, free safety Cameron Kinchins is questionable, along with nose tackle Poona Ford, also questionable. So a couple important pieces on defense are inactive against the Panthers. But in Miami, defensive tackle Benito Jones is questionable himself, and nickel cornerback Rasul Douglas also questionable as well. But in Minnesota, their offensive line is a bit shaky this week. We know that J.J. McCarthy's missing, but the backup quarterback is without left guard Donovan Jackson. He's already been ruled out, and then they also might be missing left tackle Christian Darrisaw. He is questionable, not 100% in this matchup. So the blind side for Max Brosmer, gonna be a big problem this week. Hopefully Darrisaw plays, but if he doesn't, that's a big downgrade. The Seahawks defense, I think, is the best start this week. But on defense for the Vikings, nose tackle Jalen Redmond is questionable, along with linebacker Jonathan Grenard. He's questionable again. I believe that's 3 weeks in a row. And then strong safety Joshua Metellus is questionable as well, along with cornerback Theo Jackson. All four of those players are questionable for the Vikings. But for the Patriots in New England, just before the bye week, some injuries have cropped up on the offensive line. They placed left tackle Will Campbell on IR earlier in the week, and then left guard Jared Wilson is out. So hopefully he comes back after the bye, but going into this game against the Giants, thankfully the Giants can't stop the run, but I could see the pass rush really get after Drake May. Drake May feels a little shaky to fully trust, given this matchup is so good against the run, and the pass rush will get to him much faster without the left side of the O-line. So good luck with Drake May this week. I would downgrade him. But on defense, linebacker Harold Landry is questionable, along with nose tackle Curious Tonga, also questionable as well. But their cornerback Alex Austin was placed on IR. Not sure he's coming back until at least the playoffs. That is unfortunate. But in New Orleans, the Saints are without center Eric McCoy. He was placed on IR. But their right tackle, Talisi Fuaga, who has been questionable for a couple weeks, is good to go. He was cleared. He is active for this game. But the Giants are missing 2 linebackers in this game. Linebacker Kayvon Thibodeau is already ruled out, and then linebacker Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles is a game-time decision. He's questionable, not guaranteed to play. But for the Jets in New York, defensive tackle Harrison Phillips is questionable as well. And then cornerback Jarvis Brownlee Jr. is doubtful, unlikely to play in the secondary. In Pittsburgh, their first-round rookie defensive end Derek Harmon is out this week, so that could be a problem. However, both of their linebackers who've been on the injury report for about a month now will be active. Alex Highsmith and Cole Holcomb, 2 starting linebackers, are active this week. And in San Francisco, defensive end Sam Okwayi-Nonu is out, along with linebacker Tatum Bethune out as well, paired with the injuries we all know about on defense there. But in Seattle, free safety Ty Okada is questionable as well. And then the last team to mention is Tampa Bay, and their left guard Ben Breedson, I think, is coming back to the lineup. He's questionable. Last week he was out. And then on defense, 2 linebackers are questionable. Hassan Reddick upgraded to questionable. Last week he also missed. And linebacker Anthony Nelson is questionable as well. But at cornerback, Jamel Dean, I believe missed last week, is questionable, so might be coming back. But cornerback Benjamin Morrison has been ruled out in the secondary. He's not going to play. So that is it for all of the injury updates. The final part of this video is the weather updates. We're going to go through every single game and tell you if the weather will impact the game plan or not. In Cleveland, I think this is the most important weather update of the week. Terrible weather expected. It's probably going to be snowing in Cleveland. The temperature is 35 degrees. The Niners are not accustomed to that. And then the wind is well over 20 miles per hour. On Google, whenever I see Cleveland wind projected at 24 plus, in reality, it's like 40 to 50 mile gusts. The wind is so much worse than Google would have you think in Cleveland. So I am not trusting the Niners offense at all this week. That is a recipe for disaster. Brock Purdy, probably going to shit the bed. I would outright bench Brock Purdy at the Browns. But a game with no weather to worry about is in Tennessee. The Titans are hosting Jacksonville in about 44-degree temperature with a 0 to 5% chance of rain and wind under 10 miles per hour. It's very sunny this weekend in Nashville, Tennessee. In Indianapolis, that game is indoors, so a dome completely removes any weather from the equation. No downgrade for the Colts hosting the Texans. In Miami this week, the Dolphins are hosting New Orleans, and it is going to be a bit hot, 79, 80 degrees on Sunday with 74% humidity and a 20% chance of rain. Odds are it will be raining a little bit in Miami. But the Saints are from the South. I don't know if that really changes the atmosphere for them too much, but they do play indoors. They're not accustomed to the rain. I would give the advantage to the Dolphins. In East Rutherford, New Jersey, the Jets are hosting the Atlanta Falcons, and this game is likely going to be raining all throughout. The rain and showers are literally coming through. It's like specifically for kickoff, and then as soon as the game is over, the rain is probably over in East Rutherford. So unfortunate for fans who are going to that matchup. It will be raining more likely than not, and 45 degrees with minor wind. It probably doesn't impact the game too much, but it is somewhat relevant to mention. In Tampa Bay, the Buccaneers are hosting the Cardinals, and it's going to be hot in Tampa. 83 degrees, but the humidity is actually down for this one, below 50%, and I don't think that's going to impact the Cardinals at all. The wind is pretty negligible, no chance of rain. Pretty good atmosphere for football in Tampa this week, but we'll acknowledge a bit hot given it's almost December. But in Raleigh, North Carolina, the Panthers are hosting the Rams, and it's going to be 56 degrees. The chance of rain is kind of low in the second half, but odds are the game is over before it matters. And then the wind is under 10 miles per hour, nothing to really worry about. In the Carolina versus LA Rams game, weather, not a big factor. In Seattle, it's 46 degrees, but mostly cloudy, and I think it's going to be fine. There's a 10% chance of rain, but odds are it doesn't matter. The wind is very negligible. The Seahawks game has pretty ideal conditions, if you ask me. In Pittsburgh, it's going to be pretty cold, and there is a minor chance that it rains and I guess potentially snows. It's 34 degrees in Pittsburgh, and the wind is kind of relevant, about 15 to 12 miles per hour in this game between the Bills and Steelers. So if anything, that is an advantage to Josh Allen. I think he's even more unguardable when the weather is bad, but I doubt the precipitation matters too much. I don't think it'll rain in Pittsburgh on Sunday evening. But in LA, the Chargers are hosting the Raiders, and that game is indoors under a roof, so no weather to concern you about. There is no relevance in that matchup. But in Washington, the Commanders play in Landover, Maryland. They're hosting the Broncos, and it's going to be 41 degrees, a 10% chance of rain, but odds are doesn't matter. And then the wind is also under 10 miles per hour. This game is pretty ideal. I doubt rain will happen. But otherwise, there's only one other game in Foxborough, Massachusetts. The Patriots are hosting the Giants, and I'm expecting some decent rain in this matchup. The odds of rain are 50% on Monday night. It's going to be 45 degrees, and the wind will be roughly about 15 miles per hour as well. So a little bit of bad weather conditions in this matchup. Ideally, you're running the ball a little extra. That definitely benefits New England because the Giants' run defense is so trash. But the Patriots' run defense is great. However, they are without two left offensive linemen. Perhaps the Giants do sneak a win in this game. But otherwise, that's the last game to mention, so there is no additional information to update you on. I'll be posting my final rankings later tonight, but that's it for this video. All of the injury and weather updates across the NFL. If you're interested in my ranks, check out the ones I've already posted. Running backs and wide receivers should be somewhere on the screen. Subscribe for more content and like the video on your way out. If you made it this far, I appreciate you sticking with me. But I'm Adam Mariancho. I'll see you next time. Thank you for watching. Nice and blunt.